The Dollar War. Podcast Script, Episode 3 of 3. Part 5. The comparison the markets are missing: sterling, gold, and the 50-year warning. History has a message for both sides. Neither side is listening. How the dollar replaced sterling, the real lesson. The last time the world's reserve currency changed, it happened much more slowly than most people realize, and the mechanism was nothing like what BRICS is attempting. The British pound sterling was the world's dominant reserve currency from roughly 1815, after the Napoleonic Wars, to the 1940s. Its decline was not caused by a rival financial architecture. It was caused by two world wars that exhausted British resources and a series of policy decisions that prioritized maintaining sterling's international role over domestic economic adjustment. The dollar did not seize the pound's position. It inherited it, gradually, as British economic power declined relative to American economic power, and as American institutions, particularly the Federal Reserve, established 1913, developed the depth and credibility required for international reserve status. The lesson for the current moment: reserve currency transitions are multigenerational, not decadal. They are driven by underlying economic power, not by financial infrastructure alone. China's GDP in market terms is approximately 72% of U.S. GDP. Its technological leadership in critical sectors remains contested. Its institutional credibility is declining, not rising. On the metrics that historically drive reserve currency transitions, China is not where the United States was in the 1940s. This does not mean the challenge is not real. It means it is playing out over a longer time frame than either the bulls or bears on dollar dominance typically acknowledge. Conclusion: 5 things to remember. 1. The dollar is not under existential threat, but the weaponization of 2022 changed the strategic calculus forever. Freezing Russia's reserves was the single most consequential financial decision of the post-Cold War era. It proved that dollar assets are not safe stores of value for governments that might one day be on the wrong side of U.S. foreign policy. That proof cannot be undemonstrated, and it will drive diversification efforts for decades regardless of how BRICS performs as an economic or political coalition. 2. CIPS is real, growing fast, and underappreciated by Western commentary. $24.5 trillion in annual transaction value. Record daily peaks of $178 billion. Near complete coverage of China's cross-border trade. This is not a pilot project. It is an operational alternative infrastructure for a significant portion of global commerce. The question is not whether it works. The question is whether it can scale beyond the China orbit. 3. BRICS Pay is the genuinely new piece, but it depends on political conditions that don't currently exist. The technical architecture is sound. The challenge is political. India will not subordinate its financial system to Chinese-dominated infrastructure. Brazil cannot afford to trigger U.S. tariffs. The BRICS coalition's greatest strength, its diversity, is also its greatest weakness as a financial system project, which requires the kind of deep political trust that diverse coalitions rarely sustain. 4. Xi Jinping's political choices are the biggest obstacle to yuan internationalization, not the United States. The reforms required for a credible reserve currency, convertibility, rule of law, transparency, reduced state intervention, are incompatible with Xi's consolidation of party control. China is not prevented from building a reserve currency by American resistance. It is prevented by its own political choices. 5. The end state is not dollar replacement, it is dollar erosion within a fragmented, more expensive world. The most probable outcome over the next decade is not a BRICS currency displacing the dollar. It is a world of two parallel financial systems, rising transaction costs, increased geopolitical risk premiums, and the gradual consolidation of countries into financial blocs that partially insulate them from each other's economic weapons, while reducing the overall efficiency of global trade and finance for everyone. Nobody wins that world. But we may be building it anyway. The Dollar War. Podcast Script, Episode 3 of 3. Summary in 3 sentences. The dollar is not dying, it is fracturing, slowly and unevenly, as the demonstrated willingness to weaponize it pushes a growing number of countries to build alternative infrastructure they hope they never need to use. China's CIPS system is a genuine and underrated achievement in financial infrastructure, but yuan internationalization faces structural obstacles, particularly capital controls and institutional credibility under Xi, that no payment system can solve. The most likely outcome is not a new reserve currency but a more fragmented, more expensive, and more geopolitically volatile financial world in which the United States retains its premium position while paying a steadily rising price for having revealed how that position can be weaponized. Teaser, the series finale, What Should You Do? A practical guide to navigating the dollar-yuan-gold trilemma in your own portfolio and business. A special closing episode, coming soon. Everything we've discussed in this series, China's gold accumulation, Iran's nuclear threshold, BRICS financial architecture, the Fed's response, all of it eventually lands on a single practical question. What does this mean for you? In the final episode, we step back from geopolitics and ask the questions that actually matter for individuals, business owners, and investors navigating this environment. Should you hold gold? How much? In what form? If you run a business with exposure to Asian supply chains or Middle Eastern markets, what payment systems should you be prepared to use? Is the dollar still the safest place to hold your savings, or are there scenarios in which that assumption needs to be updated? And what does the history of previous reserve currency transitions, from the pound to the dollar, actually tell us about the timelines and opportunities ahead? The series finale. The practical chapter. Don't miss it.